It's been a while. I am back from 6 weeks of silent meditation. Another 6 weeks in silence. It's been more than 9 months total since last year that I've been sitting with myself in silence. And as I continue to share, it will be a natural expression. What comes out is a natural expression of the insights that all of us have access to when we just become silent and go inward. So I just returned last week. I had recorded a few videos and had left them to upload automatically. And so I want to continue where we left off. In the last two videos, one of them was we were discussing the importance of understanding that when we are in a loving relationship, in a caring relationship with anyone, including ourselves, that relationship must include emotional safety. So I shared that I provided my daughter with an endless list of intellectual and physical needs. But what I didn't know, and it took me many, many years as an adult, my daughter's now an adult, then I was able to recognize that even though I provided her with an endless list of intellectual and physical needs, I severely lacked the awareness of providing her with emotional safety. Because I didn't know how to offer that to myself. So how can I give that to others if I wasn't aware? But it was very painful, especially not just with that connection with my child, but also relationships with partners. As some of you know, I was a physicist, aerospace engineer for many years, then transitioned, got another degree, transitioned to program management and design and software, and I highly succeeded in the corporate environment and what people, society would expect from us, but couldn't really sustain an intimate relationship. And I couldn't really figure that out, which eventually led me to question this whole concept of like, how can we possibly be so successful externally, but have such lack of connection with one another? So that was one of the topics that I discussed. And then the last video, I went into my own transformation, the recognition of, oh my gosh, how different a relationship is when I started giving what I wanted to receive. And I went into explaining the counterintuitive nature of how energy works, how our emotions work. That in physical realm, we think that if we give something, we no longer have it. So then we assume that emotions is the same. I want to feel loved and safe, but I want you to give that to me. But it actually doesn't work that way. You give that to others, you're actually giving it to yourself. You actually are the one receiving. So I discussed that in the previous video of just diving into understanding this concept of giving what we want to receive. And I invited you to contemplate on these questions, like, why are these things so elusive and so difficult to see? And I asked you these things because I wanted you to contemplate on that. So please go ahead and check out those videos if you haven't. Today, I want to take a step back. Bring it back to self. And I want to discuss, how do we go about fulfilling our own emotional needs? And so that's the topic that I want to dive into today. And for that, I want to start by asking you a few questions. Again, have you had a chance to identify your emotional needs? And this may be something that it could be an opportunity to start asking now if you haven't had a chance to identify them yet. So take a moment to ask yourself, what are my emotional needs? Because once we identify our emotional needs, we start to look into our unconscious mind. And we start to notice how these needs may be influencing how we show up in the world, how we show up in relationship, how we show up at the workplace. A lot of times we're seeking to satisfy a deep emotional need, and we have no idea. Striving is a perfect example of that. Feeling worthiness, feeling the need to feel safety, emotional safety. Oh my gosh, that one, we have billions of dollars spent in the Department of Defense to try to satisfy a core basic need of emotional safety. But when we don't know how easy it is to satisfy that need, we spend, I said billions, but it really is trillions of dollars in defense. But I won't dive into that. Let's take it back to more simple. Let's keep it simple. How would I go about satisfying the need for safety? And I will share how easy it was for me to satisfy that need once I identified that I had it, which wasn't very long ago. It was actually during a silent retreat, in a 2-month silent retreat in 2022, actually. I recognized that I had that need to feel safe. But before doing that, I invite you to take a moment and ask yourself, what are my emotional needs? And write it down, because we're going to work with it in the time that we have together. So, first of all, before moving on, if you have had the opportunity to think or write this down, hold yourself with compassion. I would say that. Let's start there. Hold yourself with kindness and compassion as we continue moving forward, because it takes great courage to go into the depth of the inner realm. And it can be scary sometimes to even ask those questions. So let's hold ourselves with kindness as we move on. And I'm just going to ask you a few questions on that, whatever you arose naturally, or if you've thought of this before, or if you are just now thinking of it. Question is, why do you feel that that need is there? Whatever it was, why do you think that you have that need? And perhaps from what I just shared, it became obvious that when I was mentioning that I lacked the sense of safety, emotional safety, the reason why I thought I lacked that is because I believed that I didn't have it. And so, do you believe that you don't have that? Authentically ask yourself, if you feel that there's this emotional need, you only need something that you feel that you don't have, right? And so here is the compassion. This is where compassion comes in, holding ourselves with kindness as we realize, oh, I want to feel love because I believe that I don't have it. I want to feel lovable because I believe that I'm not. I struggled with that one too. Oh my gosh, that was such a giant realization. Maybe I'll share it another time. Maybe 7 years ago, 6 years ago, 7 years ago. I'm not going to go into that one now, but yeah, I'm going to just call out a few that we all have. Worthiness, the emotional desire to feel worthy, wanted, safe, accepted, competent, seen. Those are a few that just come to mind. But fill in the blank with what you thought about for yourself. And leave me a comment as to what those might be that escaped my top of mind. So that's what I want to address today. I want to take this time that we have together to significantly make progress in the realization that in reality, nothing is actually lacking from the truth of who we are. And so herein lies the confusion. Because when we identify with the sense of identity of the ego, what's the ego? It's the sense of self that feels separate from the whole. Then, of course, we're going to feel incomplete, unsatisfied, unlovable, because we're going to feel that something is lacking. Because by definition, when we identify with our body, physical body, which is a very natural thing to do when you have 5 senses plus the mind, a 6th sense, and all you experience for the most part is tangible, physical in nature. Of course, we're going to feel separate from the whole. But this path of realization, self-realization, self-actualization, involves expanding our understanding of self. And so that's what we're going to be working with today, because that will be a natural progression that comes from our own understanding of who we are in truth, which is what happens when we start diving inward. And we're no longer seeking external bells and whistles and interests that appear to be out there. When we look inside, then things become clear. Natural progression. Everybody has access to this when we dive inward. And so to address a quick way for today, right? Because this is also a practice. It takes an entire lifetime. So a video, 10 to 20 minutes, is just going to provide a doorway that we can start walking in that direction. So for today, on the need that you identified, I want to invite you to join me in lesson 67 from A Course in Miracles. There are many, 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 many ways to address this you don't need the Course in Miracles. The Course in Miracles is just one tool that allows us to connect with ourselves internally. Silent meditation, the teachings of the Buddha, is another tool. Native American traditions offer a different tool. Psychology offers a different tool. So please don't think that just because I'm pulling out A Course in Miracles, it's the one way. It's just a way that has helped me, as well as silent meditation. So with that said, as a precursor, let's go into that one need that you identified. With kindness and compassion, we're going to look at it and we're going to start questioning our belief in it. So lesson 67 from A Course in Miracles tells us the following. It says, love created me like itself. So it says, today's idea is a complete and accurate statement of what you are. It goes on to say, we will make every effort today to reach this truth about you and to realize fully, if only for a moment, that this is true. So it asks us to repeat a few phrases. I'm going to use a few examples, and then I'm going to invite you to insert your statement that you recognize is lacking, the appearance of a need, an emotional need. And we're going to use it with the prompt from today's lesson of lesson 67. So the course tells us to repeat things like, kindness created me kind. So the original prompt is, love created me like itself. So, but what is love, right? Love is such a elusive concept. So let's break it down. It makes me have like the desire to have another video just to discuss what love is. The qualities of love are the qualities of the divine, the eternal, oneness, wholeness, God, Brahma, whatever name you want to call it. The Native Americans say that which has 1,000 names, but yet remains unnameable. Whatever it is that we want to call the all. So the qualities of that, the qualities of the eternal. Kindness is one of them. Kindness created me kind. Perfection. This is a tricky one. Perfection created me perfect. Let's not dwell too much on that one because, people can get confused really easy with perfection. But let's now, for example, the one I had, safety. I felt that I had a need, an emotional need. Emotional safety was lacking for me. So safety created me safe. So with that premise, I invite you to use the phrasing. So for example, let's say that you thought of the emotional need for connection, wholeness. You want to feel fulfilled. So fulfillment created me fulfilled. If you feel like worthiness created me worthy. fill in the blank and know that all that is real and eternal and true, the qualities that come from our true spiritual nature, the essence that is emanating, that is animating this physical being, the matter, atoms that are being animated by spirit, that animating life force is what I'm referring to. That's who we are in truth. That is our true nature. But because of innocence, we have been animated by life, and we think that we are the body that is limited, that is lacking, that is unsafe, because we haven't gone inward to understand that our true nature extends beyond physicality and is actually an expression of life itself. And the more that we go in, the more that we identify with truth and wisdom and clear seeing, clear intentions, the more this gets revealed, the more peace we feel. Peace created me peaceful. Acceptance created me accepting. And so once we understand that we're actually not lacking, the truth of us is just as majestic, just as expansive, just as creative as the life force itself that is creating it all, creating the stars, the universe, the galaxies, the infinity that we see in the vastness of space, is the source that is animating us. And we are creating equal to that source. That's who we are in truth. That's who you are in truth. So when that is your true nature, how can you possibly be lacking anything? Only the identification with the small sense of self is that denies the truth of who we are. And so the way to make progress is to recognize, oh, I'm identifying with the small self, when in reality, I am the all in all, expressed in this tiny little vehicle. And that is true for all of us. It is true for all of life. We have been gifted the capacity to realize self, whereas other animals don't have the gift to realize their true nature. It's kind of like a drop of water having the capacity to recognize that they're part of the ocean. We have been gifted that capacity. And that is the whole concept of healing. We are healing our perception of who we are in truth. And so, to bring this to concrete terms, I want to share how I went about giving what I wanted to receive, which I talked a little bit in the previous video, but I didn't say how I went about doing it myself. And I'm going to use a very simple concept of safety, emotional safety. So when I was in retreat, when I recognized this in silent retreat, and there are other yogis that were in silence as well, but we would meet and we would all meditate in silence, but we wouldn't talk to each other for the whole duration of the time we were there. So what I would do is that when I felt unsafe, I started to offer safety to others. As an example, just got a notification. For example, I had, well, I mean, it could have been anything, but just to make it concrete, when there are rules, there are rules in the hall, in the meditation hall, where people were supposed to come in at a certain time, and if they were late, we were asked to just meditate somewhere else so that we don't interrupt the silence. And so that was just a guideline, but some people would take it seriously, right? And would complain to the teachers if other yogis would come in late. And of course, we all make mistakes, and some yogis would come in late. And the teachers continued to tell us, like, don't come in late. And so I noticed that I started to develop an aversion towards people that would come in late, because they keep telling us don't show up late, and then people would show up late anyway. And I noticed that I would start kind of like poking on them in my own mind, in my own emotional system. It's like, oh, you're late again. That's not emotional safety. That's the opposite. Because if I had the opportunity to say something, and let's say, for example, that were my partner or my child or my parent, I would be like, you're not supposed to come in late, right? Like, I would come to that person with the energy that's not safe for them to experience. And this isn't to say we're not supposed to discuss guidelines. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying that I noticed that I was having an aversive reaction to them showing up late. And what I did was I started to emotionally, energetically welcome them. I imagined that they were my younger brother, who I couldn't imagine my youngest brother like showing up in that retreat for 2 months or 3 months. And so I imagine, oh my gosh, what would it take for my brother to be here? So many causes and conditions would have to come in alignment for my brother to even say, I'm going to go do this. So I imagine that's my brother, who all of these things happened for him to be here. Oh my gosh, please welcome. Please come in late. It doesn't matter. I'm just so happy that you're here. Please have a seat. Oh my gosh, like, what can I do for you? Do you need right? Like, we change the shift in perception or perspective changes the whole dynamic. And so I started offering that emotional safety to them. And one day I was showering and I came in just in time for the talks. 1 hour a day, we have a teacher give a talk in wisdom. So I was just arriving, just everybody was in the hall. The teacher was about to start, and I was like 30 seconds late. And I walked into that hall with such confidence, because I wasn't judging people anymore for showing up late. I wasn't judging myself for showing up late. And this is how I provided myself emotional safety, where I would see people come in late and kind of like shrink and like make faces and like bow to the teachers. And I would see they're uncomfortable. They don't feel safe showing up late. But it was so transformative when I started giving the welcome. Oh my gosh, please welcome. What do you need? Can I get you something, right? Of course, I didn't say that to them. It's just energetically, like my emotion towards them. And everything shifted. And I felt safe in return when it was my turn to, by accident, it happened that I was late. And so that's just an example of this principle being applied in real life. So I encourage you to consider trying it out and let me know if you try it. Give me comments, and I would love to read your experiences. Also, if you are interested in diving further into self-awareness, because it takes great courage and great awareness to notice all of these patterns and be compassionate with ourselves and forgiving and accepting and rebalancing, I welcome you to go into my website. The link is in the description, fernmarierodriguez.com. I offer a free 3-day training that summarizes all that I've learned in the last 7 years of internal search. And that's a summary of the more intensive 10-week program that I'm going to be restarting again in the upcoming months. So you will have the information in your inbox when that starts. So I encourage you to leverage that free resource. And until next time, thank you so much for staying this long. Namaste.